Hey guys, this is Down Phoenix, and today I'd like to talk about my experience with Crackdown 3 and revisiting the original Crackdown and kind of compare the games. Because one of the things that I've noticed with Crackdown 3 is a lot of people compared it to the original game, saying that it was at best a minor improvement. There wasn't really much that's changed over the span of, 12 years between the games. And at first glance, that does seem to be the case, especially when you look at the footage of the original Crackdown running on the Xbox One X, which upscales everything to 4K. And so if you're comparing them in that mode, it definitely seems like at first glance that there's not a lot different. But I've noticed quite a lot of difference, actually, at least from my personal experience. See, I recently got an Xbox One X. It's been about a month now since I got it. And I got two games that I started with on that. One of which, of course, was Crackdown 3 via Game Pass. And the other one I got with the Xbox One X, which is Devil May Cry 5, which we'll talk about that later on in another time. But anyways, Crackdown 3 was a game that I was part of the hate bandwagon on. I wasn't really that excited for it to begin with, because Microsoft's just had a bad track record when it comes to gaming lately, and not to mention that the critical acclaim has been very minimal. They've showed practically zero gameplay up until launch. I had a feeling that it wasn't going to be that good, and Microsoft clearly wasn't very confident in this game, so I was pretty easy to dismiss it. And whenever some of the Xbox fanboys were excited for it, I dismissed that too. And that was kind of my mistake, because I don't know if maybe it was just the right time and right place, but when I started playing Crackdown 3, I actually was kind of digging it. It was obviously a throwback game. There are a lot of similarities to the original game in terms of the gameplay, but it is a very refined experience, nonetheless. Visually, it's actually pretty nice looking. It actually takes quite a good advantage of the Xbox One X hardware. More so than I thought it would. I figured it'd just be upscaling over the One S or something like that, and not much else. But no, it's actually a pretty good difference. And also, the fact of the matter is, the way that the map design is a lot better than the original game. The mission design is better. It's just a lot more polished than the original game, because I decided to revisit the original game afterwards and kind of just compare the way they play. I mean, they play very similarly. If you look at just the surface, it's 95% the same game. You go around, you do these little objectives, you hunt down these gang leaders until you eventually get to the top dog, you take them out, and you move on. And then you have the rooftop races, the races, you have those different little mini games that you can do. So all of that is pretty much the same in terms of the actual content, but it's the subtleties, it's the little minor things that really separate it. For one, platforming in the original game sucks, I'm sorry to say. It's very imprecise and floaty feeling, and it just doesn't feel very good. That's not the case with Crackdown 3. The platforming is a lot more precise. You have a lot more control in the air of your character. Not to mention, when you upgrade your agility abilities, it's a lot more meaningful as far as the upgrades. Because in the original, all it did was just increase your jump height and run speed, and that obviously wasn't that big of an improvement, considering that you never actually got more control over your jumps. Like, for example, if you needed to jump backwards a bit and then move back forwards to get over a stupid ledge that they added above your head, that was like really difficult to do in the original game. A lot of the taller buildings, you literally had only one way to traverse up them, and it took forever because of just how stupidly designed the cities were. Crackdown 3 didn't have that problem. There's a lot of ways to get up certain buildings, not to mention you have a lot more control over your jumps. You have like the double and even triple jumps, and the jumps that let you move horizontally rather than just vertically. So there's a lot more options with that. Not to mention the platform is more precise and forgiving at the same time. So like if you barely miss an ledge, you know, the game will still generally grab that ledge, whereas the original is not like that at all. You have to be like right on it basically to grab it. And the shooting gameplay is a lot better. I mean, it's the same lock-on system, but the reticle in the original game was like a lot of weapons took way too long to zero in on the reticle, and most weapons were basically useless if you wanted to aim at body shots. You know, it's just a lot better shooting gameplay. And of course it needs to be too, because the enemy variety is a lot more too. Like the original game's all like regular enemies running around with guns and rocket launchers and things like that. It's not that interesting. The new game actually has a lot of really cool enemies like mechs and drones and whatnot. You know, it has a lot more variety in the enemies, which is really, really cool. And the driving's just better too. You know, actually it feels pretty good. I don't know, man. It's a lot of people say not much has changed in 12 years, but a lot has changed. You know, there's been a lot of quality of life improvements. Like one thing that was really annoying in the original Crackdown is if you get a car and you want to impound it, well, the only place you impound it is the one agency garage that's in the very middle of the map. You don't have anywhere on the HUD that tells you where you need to enter that garage. You know, you just know that it's going to be like a little area you have to go in that goes underground. But it's just hard to find, and until you get like familiar with the map and you know where to go, it's a pain in the ass to find it. You know, I constantly driving around for like 15 minutes trying to find this place, you know. In the new game, it's not like that at all, because you have so many more garages and they're all marked on the HUD and they're all easy to access. You don't have to like go underground and go under these tunnels and shit like that to find it. You know, it's just right there. You just park your car on top and boom, you know, you got it. Just a lot of little improvements like that, very subtle differences. They're very subtle. That's very important to know, but it just makes it for a much better experience. So if you were like me and you were calling it Crackdown 3 and you were writing it off entirely, you should give it a chance. Especially if you played the original Crackdown, you'll notice a lot of little subtle differences that really have improved the gameplay. And it's just a lot more interesting game now than it was back then. I'm gonna wrap up Crackdown 1 because I haven't beat it yet. I've got to still go through the Shy Gen or whatever. And then gonna try Crackdown 2 to see how that is. I've never even played Crackdown 2, but I hear that's the worst one, so I'm not expecting much. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about Crackdown 3, Crackdown 1, just let you guys know what I think. If you have Game Pass, definitely give it a chance. Don't bother with the multiplayer though. The multiplayer's lame. I'm talking about the competitive multiplayer, because you can play co-op, you know, all day long if you want. But that's all I got time for. Down Phoenix out.